Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm just jamming out to the old intro there. TGIF, happy Friday. I'm going to take a look in full screen today. Did not decide to go on TikTok this morning, but I'll be sure to put some clips on there. Only if they play out, of course. Just kidding. But yeah, let's just jump right into it. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Some nice short form content for you. I did want to have just the ability to go full screen here and just kind of showcase a little bit of what we're looking at. And so the other day, on the last update here, we were looking at the back test, the weekly open. We had this really nice SFP at the high on Sunday. This was our previous day high, weekly open, nice, just really nice little back test here. Before that, we had the swing of the previous day low, previous day high, right? That was definitely the trade of the day. And then to catch that short up here as well, because while during this whole time right here, we were looking for that move back down towards the yearly pivot. We had a weekly pivot in here as a target short term that came in for this week. And then we were looking to see if we were going to actually reclaim this yearly pivot for any more upside, and that did not occur. So had a local gold pocket pulled, really not super substantial, but just a little bit more confluence given to this area, this little region here, right? Because this is where we were on the last update. Had a really nice abrupt drop. News couldn't tell you, but as far as technical goes, this is definitely the area that I was looking to come into. Lost the yearly pivot right into that gold pocket, right into the quarterly VWAP, and right into the 6M pivot as well. So when you come into this, the next move here is you got a couple options, right? Because we had technically, as we come into this, remember back into the old range, not into the old range, but into the previous week range, which we kind of were dancing around this entire, top here. You came back in, came into the EQ of the range, right? Our natural target once we re-enter this region is going to be the point of control, which this was actually a naked point of control for the previous week. It was right here at 1914. After that, obviously, you'd be targeting down to your previous week val. This is also the previous week low. One area to not overlook on the way down here would be this untapped daily that comes in right here about 1989, which is what I have my eyes on now. So it is just, how you have to manage the positions on the way down. Catching a short from this region, right? You'd have your targets in place. And then as far as, at least in the moment for me, to look for any more upside, once we came to this region, we had to reclaim the yearly pivot. Right. So on the small time frames, we did that, 15-minute candle, maybe 2 or 3 of them. However, on the 4-hour close, we did not, right? So we're going to kind of fast forward this now, if I can figure out how to get that through. There we go. All right, so we're going to turn off this previous week. Actually, we'll keep that back on. I think it's important to see how this played out, right? So just take some patience, and you really have to put a lot of context around the chart, right? So we came into this region, and this is the one I'm talking about right here. So on a 4-hour time frame, we punched through it, basically just back test the VWAP, then close back below. Not what you really want to see, right? So from there, you'd have to be targeting lower once again. We come down, we swing the low, see how the reaction there. What did we do? We came down below the 6M pivot. Close below, wicks, right? All you're doing is just back testing this, getting rejected every single time. You have to be looking lower. So at that point, you're looking down to your NPOC, which we came into yesterday. Once again, next major area to claim is going to be that 6M pivot. I'm going to go ahead and take off this gold pocket. And otherwise, lose that point of control, and you're heading down to the daily level here, right? So 1989 is the next target for me. With ETH, it's kind of like in the stock market where you see, many people will pay attention to the Dow Jones or to the S&P as they're trading something else, right? Because those larger indices basically dictate the market, and Bitcoin definitely does that for us. So when you're looking at, certain ideas and trading plans for any other asset, you almost have to consistently be watching Bitcoin as well. Obviously, the game plan really shouldn't change here because you have your key levels as you go, but it can add a little bit more confluence. So for me, yes, we're coming into support right now, so you can't get overly bearish at the moment, but I would anticipate making another move, taking this last low. I mean, all we've been doing is just swiping lows on the way down, at least coming down to this daily level. And when you start thinking about like what that looks like, it's not much, another 1.5%, but it would, knock out previous day low once again. Things of that nature. When you think about these terms like previous day, previous week, whatever, you really are knocking out a ton of traders in that time frame. Think about how many people entered the market and put a stop loss from the low of last week, throughout the time of the week. It's whatever that recent low was, and then now that data has come through for us. Yesterday, the same thing. Anybody that's coming through, and maybe you got a perfect entry at the low at the time, and the stop loss goes below that low, and now that's where all that data and how that can be utilized, because you got to think about how the next trader is going to get knocked out, right? And so yeah, so we're essentially, this is a 4-hour time frame. If I'm zooming in to 15, I'm pretty sure we're losing that point of control, right? So that's where you can kind of start getting into the nitty gritty here, right? You've got that run up, back test the VWAP. Now we're back below the point of control, closing below, living below. Daily level at 1989 is the next place we're probably going, right? What I was bringing up Bitcoin was, kind of keeping that, like if you're looking at any other chart while you're doing any trading, in my eyes, it would be keeping an eye on Bitcoin. So let's take a look at that real quick. Magic and Max have done an outstanding job at providing Bitcoin analysis. Be sure to tune in to Magic Internet Money's channel for their daily updates there. And then obviously, if you're in the group, you're well aware of what we've been anticipating. So, yeah, so we had the previous week low, which was, an interesting area to be paying attention for. We did have a swing of that yesterday and just really no reaction. And that's really what it comes down to, is you have to get that reaction as we come through it. Just basically consolidated right above and then just, blasted right through it once more. So when looking at this from a structural point of view, and looking at the idea of how are we going to, what needs to be done to inflict the most amount of FOMO into the market right now, and not even just FOMO, but just a little bit of pain, a little bit of, you could call it liquidity, right? It's going to be coming down and at least taking out these lows right here, because now you're talking anybody who got in on this move, whether it was late or whether it was in right here going long, they more than likely move their stop losses up to at least here. Let's pretend it was here or here originally. You get up to these regions and now you got stop loss put in play right here. And let's, face it, that most people probably did not get in on these lows. More probably got in around, this consolidation, which we've been, just tiptoeing around. So when looking at this, now we go down to, Bitcoin. We look at that previous week low. We've effectively lost it, right? We swung it last night, kind of held it, dropped out of it. Perfect back test. I would, now you have to anticipate going lower. So what's your next lower target? It's going to be taking these lows, right? Whether it's coming down to 27.77, coming down and actually taking this one as well. What kind of percentage move is that? It's not really too much. It's about another 1 or 1.5%, just in this region. After that, it's, more than likely down to the yearly pivot. But when looking at ETH, right, I stack up those percentage moves and see how that would reflect into the Ethereum chart. And like I said, if we're going to potentially take another 1.5% stab out of Bitcoin, what does that look like out of ETH? Well, now we're at that daily level, right? So that's one way how I kind of stack those confluences there. So yeah, I hope that made a lot of sense. It is Friday, so we're coming into the weekend volume, what have you. We actually had a pretty decent, what's going on, Max? Actually had a pretty decent weekend. Not really too exciting, but you had a really nice move if you waited for it, right? Which was that SFP at the high. That did occur over the weekend. So you obviously got another entry as we came back up and back tested the week open. So it'll be interesting to see how the weekend goes. But today, still a full day ahead of us here. So yeah, I'm looking down to that daily level, not overlooking, obviously, the idea that we could just rotate the range all the way down to the previous week low and the val. But yeah, that daily level, and paying attention to see how Bitcoin reacts at that 27.77 area. and lower. And then at that region, I do think that we have a pretty good bounce coming, even if we just rotate back to these highs. Still really targeting this $2,200 area personally, and then from there, let's kind of see how things unravel. Otherwise, if we do just continue just bleeding through, right, you got to be aware. You have statistical targets here for the month and for the quarter. Down here at 1663, 1623. So let's just say that after I get off this stream today and we just nuke through and get a back test, previous week low, previous week val, lose your monthly open, that would be the case. Otherwise, I'm looking for more along the lines of something like this, so you get that daily. And then even if we just run it back to the yearly pivot and maybe get a rejection there, lower high, look for something along that line. Otherwise, I'm still just looking up to that 2200 as the next target. For any RSI junkies, there is a good amount of bullish divergence, piling up for the 4 hour here, right? You got that downtrend here on your price, starting to get that uptick here on the RSI. Your RSI is oversold as well for the 4 hour time frame, so we've got some room to run it to the upside. Just going to be depending on how we get there, but yeah, definitely pay attention for that Bitcoin move below the current lows there, and see how the reaction is off this daily. And that is about all I got for everybody. 11 and a half minutes, 12 minutes or less. Your ETH analysis. What was the reason for this move? Not technical analysis. It was definitely Gary Gensler or something he said like 3 days before. Just kidding. But yeah, so I'll see you all in the next video. Max, hope you're having a great morning. And definitely tune in for Magic Internet Money and Max, Max, he's in the chat here, for their Bitcoin analysis on Magic Internet Money's channel around 10 a.m., sometimes sporadically through the day. And obviously, if you're interested in joining the Leading Crypto Discord server, you have access to all of this and all of us all the time. Information on that is at leadingcrypto.io. You can also find that in the information box down below. Have a great Friday, everybody. Hope to see you all on Monday.